Never thought I'd see their names light up my phone screen again. The message sat there, a blinking beacon of memories I'd buried deep. It was from my parents, the ones who vanished from my life when I needed them most. After years of silence, they were reaching out to apologize, to reconcile. But all I could feel was the sharp sting of old wounds. I sat on the edge of my bed, the room dimly lit by the late afternoon sun filtering through the curtains. My heart pounded in my chest as I read their words. "We are so sorry," it began. "We want to make things right." I could almost hear their voices, tremulous and filled with regret. But where was that regret when I was left alone to navigate my teenage years, when I needed someone to guide me through the stormy seas of adolescence? Memories flooded back me, a scared 16-year-old, sitting on the steps of the foster home, clutching a battered suitcase. They had left me there without a word, without an explanation, just disappeared one day. The nights I spent crying myself to sleep, wondering what I did wrong. The days I skipped meals because I couldn't afford groceries. The holidays I spent alone, envying the warmth and laughter that seeped through the walls from neighboring apartments. They weren't there for any of it, and now, years later, they thought an apology could mend what was irreparably broken. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms as I remembered the first time I reached out to them. It was my high school graduation. I stood on that stage, a sea of faces cheering for their loved ones. My eyes searched the crowd for them, hoping against hope that they'd be there. But they weren't. The diploma felt like a hollow victory in my hands. After the ceremony, I dialed their number with trembling fingers. The phone rang and rang until it went to voicemail. I left a message, my voice cracking with emotion, asking them to come back, to be a part of my life again. They never responded. The rejection stung, leaving a scar that never healed. Years passed, and I built a life for myself. I learned to be independent, to rely on no one but myself. I made friends who became my family, people who were there for me in ways my parents never were. I buried the pain deep, convincing myself that I was over it, that I didn't need them. And now, out of the blue, they decided to reappear, as if they had the right to waltz back into my life whenever they pleased. A flicker of suspicion gnawed at me as I reread their message. Why now? Why, after all these years, were they suddenly sorry? I did some digging, scrolling through social media and old contacts. That's when I found out they were in trouble. Their business was failing, debts were piling up, and they needed help. Of course, they did. They were reaching out not because they regretted their actions, but because they needed a lifeline. Their motives were as selfish as they had always been. I stared at their message, my vision blurred by tears I refused to let fall. They had no idea what they had put me through, the struggles I endured because of their abandonment. How dare they think an apology could erase the years of hurt and loneliness? I took a deep breath, steadying my trembling hands, and began to type a response. Your apology means nothing to me. You lost the right to be a part of my life when you left me at that foster home without explanation, without support. I've built a life without you, and I don't need you disrupting it now. Do not contact me again. I don't want to hear from you. Ever. I hit send before I could second guess myself, feeling a mix of relief and sorrow wash over me. This was my final goodbye, the closure I needed. They were no longer my parents. They were just strangers who shared my blood. I had moved on, and it was time they did too. I walked to the window, staring out at the sunset, thinking about the freedom I had carved out for myself. They weren't just seeking forgiveness, they were seeking financial salvation. I couldn't let them back into my life, not when I had sacrificed so much to escape their shadow. My decision was selfish, too, in its own way. I had fought tooth and nail to get where I was, and I wasn't about to let them drag me back into the chaos they created. My life was finally mine, shaped by my choices and my strength. I owed it to myself to protect that, to protect the happiness I had found. The sky was a canvas of oranges and pinks, a reminder that every day ended with the promise of the new beginning. I had my own family now, forged from bonds stronger than blood. And with them, I would continue to move forward, leaving the shadows of my past where they belonged behind me.